Nice. Let's have a little look here. All right, guys. Hope everyone is doing good. Having a couple of issues with Zoom this evening. They are not loving me for some reason, so we will kind of battle through as best we can. Okay. So what we've got. My name's Mark. I just introduced myself. My name's Mark. I am one of the coaches here at PT Final Exam, and I'd like to just welcome you all to joining us for tonight's session. And going to be going over a information about the crash course. So our PTA Crash Course and how we're going to be going through just the crash course, the blueprint, and how everything's looking for the NPTE. So we've got a few different things, a few different areas we're going to jump into tonight and have a look as we kind of progress through. So what we've got is a bit of a plan here. I just want to mention we've got the Q&A box we've got open. We've got the chat box open as well. So if anyone's got any questions as I'm going along, please reach out and ask me a question, or throw something into the chat box as we're going through. So I'll be able to respond to those things. So in the chat box, just real quickly, I want to make sure everyone can see the okay, and you can hear me. Just do a quick check if you can jump into the chat or raise your hands if everything is good. Yep, wonderful, excellent, good. There's loads of you in here. Excellent, good. So a little bit about myself. My name's Mark. I am originally from England, so you can tell I'm not from round here in the States. Oh, we've got a few GSTQs, so a few people have seen me before. So GSTQ, if you see that in the chat box, that is my little slogan of God Save the Queen. If you're ready for me to move on, if you're ready for me to go on, yes, I've got this concept. Yes, I'm ready to move on. GSTQ is that we jump onto. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to be going over the NPTAE blueprint. That's kind of a mouthful to say. So the PTA or the NPTE. So we're going to be going through the blueprint, what comes up on the exam, what's to be expected as going through, and you've just got a good idea of how we approach the exam, how we approach studying from a point here at PT Final Exam. So as we're going through this evening, we'll talk about some of the changes that have come up during 2020 with the impact of, I'm sure all of you have had impacts within school and within doing. So we'll talk about a little bit of the changes around there. We're also going to talk about some of the main categories that you need to study. So what we focus on, what are going to get you the most points in this exam, what's going to help you get to that finish line strong. Okay. And then we're going to finish off with a few just quick practice questions. So in real time, we'll launch a poll. We'll actually answer some practice questions that could come up on the test. Okay. So let me jump here. So what we've got first is let's look at the blueprint itself. So this is the blueprint that comes out from the FSBPT, and they have this set up where they go over the different sections for your exam. And as they're different things for you, they are breaking things down, and it shows you how many questions are going to get asked on each section, how many questions are going to be asked for data collection, how many are going to be asked for diseases and conditions that affect treatment, how many are going to be asked in interventions, and it breaks it down. What this does is a really helpful tool for you when you're studying, because you can say, this is where I need to spend the most of my time. So if you are someone who is struggling with cardiopulm, or someone who is struggling with musculoskeletal or neuro, these are areas that you really want to spend a lot of time on focusing your studies, because this is going to get you the most points on this test. So when you look at this, you can see that cardio, musculoskeletal, and neuro have the biggest points available for this test. Got a bunch of points available to you. Let me just grab a pen here a second. And so if we circle these big three, so you've got cardio, musculoskeletal, neuro are going to be your big points. So if you can be really strong in those three systems, that is going to get you a really good score on this test. So this way out exceeds half of the exam when you look at this broken down bit by bit. Then we start to look at the way it's split up. So physical therapy, data collection, diseases and conditions, interventions. When we look at those three sections, then you can see how many questions are going to be asked on those specific topics. Okay. So like you can see, for you guys as PTAs, the big topics for this is going to be diseases and conditions, and it's going to be intervention. So that is a big key area that you want to focus a lot of time on study. Now, once we jump into the non-system section, the non-systems is broken down slightly more: equipment, devices, therapeutic modalities, safety, protection, professional responsibilities, and research. But as you can see, each of these sections are smaller, but when you combine this section as a whole, it tends to become the big cousin of the big three. So you've got the big three, then you've got non-systems as a whole to kind of give you another area that if you're strong in this section, you can boost your score pretty high. As you jump into integ, metabolic, GI, GU, lymphatics, you can see that there is not as many questions asked on this section. So we wouldn't be wanting to spend a ton of time on these sections. You want to know it and you want to be familiar with it, but you don't want to spend a whole ton of time on these sections when these big three and the non-systems can get you the highest score. Okay. Any questions on the breakdown before I jump on to the next section? Right, so let's jump on. So we've got here. So the thing with the FSBPT and COVID, there has been a bit of change. They've extended a lot of our options for testing. So in order to help candidates who are unable to find seats or unable to book a place to take a test, they've actually extended the time frame out for you to sit the exam. So you can pick a day, usually between January 6th and January 20 is what they've said is the window for the exam. Okay, so you've got that kind of space there for you to be able to actually select your dates, because one of the things they've had to do to adhere to social distancing is they've had to eliminate some of the testing like areas. So it's like every other desk or every other computer is being used for testing. So you've got to have a little bit more issues there with trying to get everyone in on one day. So they've actually expanded that out, and they're allowing people to sit on a more dates than normal. So candidates are expected to test on those fixed dates, and they are going to want you to test on the specific day they give you. So they're not going to say, all right, you can test anywhere in between these dates and just turn up on one of those days, or this is your set thing. You have got a specific day that you will be testing on. So you've got to make sure that you know that date, you are familiar with it, and you're ready to test on that specific date. So unfortunately, there's been no cut in the scores. So they haven't changed any of the scores for you guys. They haven't changed any of the passing grade or anything as a responsibility of this. It's all the same. So what you want to also be aware of is be prepared for a few headaches when you get to Prometric. So Prometric, they've had to adhere to a lot of things like we've talked about. So masking, you're going to have to wear a mask for your test. Distancing, so you're going to be separated out from a few people. Sometimes that can be a positive, and that can be something that can actually help you out is you've got a bit of space between you. And sometimes that check-in process is going to be potentially a little longer because they could be cleaning, they could be socially distancing a little bit more, and you've got those aspects that you kind of need to check into. So we got a question there in the chat box about the passing grade. I'm going to come on to the passing grades in a few slides time, and we'll talk about the breakdown from a 600 score, what that means in relation to percentages. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a few slides. Okay, so with the content outline, what they're going to look at, what is on the test. Now, as they've created the content outline that we've just looked at, now they have gone through all of the textbooks that we use with school, and they have gone through those different things to kind of allow for you to know what study materials you should be studying from. So if you've got these study materials, so textbook survey is going to tell you this is the books that we have used the most for this test. So every question on the test has to have a textbook answer. It has to have an answer that's got a citation and a reference from a specific core textbook that you've used within school. So the exam is not written from it's not written from anyone who's created this one book or stop for the exam. They've actually written it from your books from school. So use those books when you're studying, because that is the information that's going to be the most pertinent to the exam. The other thing then you can look at is the content outline, which I showed you earlier on. And then there's also a few different resources for how they develop the questions, how they practice things, and how you can ensure that the test you're taking is valid, how you can ensure that they've done development well, how they have done things with question to question, and how they've actually made the test the way it is. So there's all this information on the FSBPT that can give you information on the test. Okay. All right. So there has been an increased standard, okay, for this test. And what that did, that was that increased standard began in 2019. So it's been there for a year, just coming up to 2 years now. And what happened at this time? They increased the passing score by roughly 3 questions. And what they did, they just made the test just a little bit harder. So what people found was there was a lot of people that would get that 600 score, which is the passing score. And then where a lot of people were just scraping that 600 score, some people then started to fall just below that 600 score. So those 3 questions actually made quite a difference to a lot of people. So that's why we're really encouraging people to prep well and to be really ready for the exam when it actually comes up. So it's over the last 2 years, it's just been made a tiny little bit harder. So what is actually on the NPTE? Okay, Sully is not going to be on the NPTE, but that is kind of a scary image. So the NPTE can be scary, especially if we don't know what's on it. It can be confusing. It can be just like organic chemistry that we kind of looked at when we were back in like early school. So it's kind of tough to know that. And what we like to do here at PT Final Exam, we like to try and dissect things. We try to break things down, because as much as you can know about the test, the more you are going to feel comfortable when you go in. So the less anxiety you're going to have when you go into an exam. What we find is that anxiety is increased by things we can't control. So what we want to do is we want to give you as much information and as much help as we can to give you as much control as you can when you go into the exam. So what is going to be on the test? How is it going to look? What are you going to see when you get in there on the day? What is going to give you the how should you prep? All of these things will help with a reduction in your anxiety, especially on test day. So with the test, what they are looking for, they are going to only test you on things that is entry level. So anything that you could encounter within your first 12 months of practice. So this is not a specialty exam. This is not an exam that is going to test you on specific things that you might see if you are specializing in a specific area. If you are a professional person, or if you are super, super confident with vestibular rehab, this is not the kind of thing that they are going to really dive into those intricate parts of the profession. So it's anything that you can see within the entry level that you might see within the first 12 months. And like I mentioned, every question on the test has to be current. It has to have a citation in a published textbook within the last 5 years. So with the exam development that they've gone, the FSBPT, they have done a bunch of training with people. And what they do is they test this test by multiple people who write tests. They develop it in a very, very, very structured way. Every single test, every single item on the test is edited and analyzed in approximately 8 committees. So it has to go through someone writing it. It has to go through a first review, a second review, another review. It has to go to committees. Then each question that comes up on this test will have been used as a pre-test item in previous years. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about the exam in a little while, but what we'll talk about is the score, how many questions you're going to be asked, and this pre-test item is going to come up in there. So the pre-test, it's been tested before to see if it's a good question. If everyone gets it wrong or if everyone gets it right, then it might need some tweaking. So from that, they analyze the information that they see, and then they try to develop that question. They try to make that question the best question it could possibly be before it appears on your scored exam. So what they do with the exam, they group this exam into 150 question and it's blocks. Okay, so what it happens is you've got 150 questions that come up on this, or 150 questions is what the test is scored out of. So when you go into the test, you are being scored out of 150 questions. 50 questions on this test are going to be pre-test questions, so they're unscored. You do not know which 50 these 50 are going to be, but you are going to be scored on 150 of them. So 50 of them are going to be pre-tests for future years for your peers and into the future. Now, there are 5 to 10 different exam forms given on any specific day. So the person who is sitting next to you to the one side and the person sitting next to you on the other side will probably have a different form of the exam. This is done in a way to prevent cheating, in a way to prevent you peeking across to see if anyone is looking at any of the answers next to you. You will probably be taking slightly different tests. So if you get the question here, if you get a pre-test question right, does that help your score? It does not. So the pre-test question doesn't help your score in the exam. It's used as a test question. You don't know whether it's a pre-test question. You don't know whether it's a test question for the actual exam. So what it doesn't do is look at like all of the questions. You've got your predetermined 150 questions. That is what's going to give you your score. The other ones are just test questions for future years. It kind of, or I didn't mean to skip there. It kind of sucks that you've got an extra hour of the exam pretty much doing something that doesn't actually help your score, but it's very important to do. And one of the ways that's how they kind of make the exam as good as it is by having these pre-test questions. So the way the structure of the exam goes, there is 4 sections on this exam, and each section is broken up into 50 questions in each section. So that brings you up to that 200. After section 2, there is a break that you can leave your computer, you can leave the prometric room, you can have a break, you can get a drink, you can go to the bathroom before you go back into the test. But what you have is every 50 questions is a new block. So once you've done 50 questions, you submit those 50 questions. You cannot then go back to those 50 questions to check them and re-answer them after you've submitted it. So before you submit it, make sure that if you flagged any answers, if you've marked any answers, you know that you've gone back to check on those to make sure that you've done all of the things you need to do. So one of the things you can do on this test, you can strike through answers, so you can cross out answer choices specifically if you want to. So one of the test taking strategies that we like to encourage is cancel out some answers. So read the question, try and get rid of a few answers, because if you can get rid of a few, then you lower your chance of actually picking the wrong one. So strike through, get rid of stuff if you can, or you can mark a question. And what we'll do by marking a question is looking at it. All right, this looks a little bit tough for me. I'm not sure what we're going to do on this question. It's causing me some problems. I'm going to mark it, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to come back to that question. Okay, so that's something you can do, marking feature on the test. The other thing you will have is you will have some scratch paper available to you. What you can do on this is you can make calculations, you can do a brain dump. And what we talk about brain dumps is writing information down on that piece of paper, that's stuff that you might have difficulty with. Now, for me, when I did my test, I went through my brain dump and I put things on my brain dump that I always got questions wrong on. That was things like cranial nerves. That was things like myotomes. That was things like lab values. All things that I could quickly reference, read something, and try and help me out get into my answer that I needed to get to. So if I could quickly look at something and I had a question that was confusing me slightly between cranial nerve 5 and cranial nerve 7. So it was a question either about trigeminal neuralgia or it was a question about Bell's palsy. I could look down my cranial nerves and I could be like, okay, so here's my cranial nerve 5, that's my trigeminal. Here's my cranial nerve 7, that's my facial. And I know that I can kind of break it down and say, okay, facial is related to Bell's palsy, trigeminal is related to trigeminal neuralgia. That just helped me not spend too much time on each question, but I had a quick reference that I could use. Okay, so we've got that breakdown into the question. Now, you must have a 600 out of 800 scale score to pass this exam. So, approximately, this works out to about 103 to 105 questions. So, there are some questions on this test that might be easier questions. They might not have as much weight to them as some of the harder questions in this exam. So, the difficulty you've got is because there's 5 to 10 different forms of this exam. Some questions are going to be, or some forms of the exam might have a passing score of, say, 68%. Some forms of the test might have a passing score of like 71%. Now, what that does, it makes the playing field fair. So if you've got a slightly easier form of the exam, your passing score will be slightly higher. But if you've got a tougher exam, then your passing score will be slightly lower. So it's going to be approximately 103 to 105 questions out of those 150 questions that are scored. This test is the same. This pass rate is exactly the same for every state governed by the FSBPT. Your exam scoring is done electronically. It's done automatically. And there is a manual review that only occurs if there was an incident at the testing site or if there was an unusual answer pattern or something like that. So if there's any indication that there was potentially some cheating, if there was anything that maybe just looks a little bit odd, they might withhold your score. So what happens when someone withholds your score? The most common time your score is withheld is because you have seen a massive increase on your score. Now, we recently had someone who had a massive increase on their score, and I think they jumped their score by about 160 points from a failed attempt. So they had a failed attempt and they were in the 500s, and they jumped their score by like 160 points and got way up into the 700s. And their score was withheld because, all right, something happened from the last time they took this to this time. What was it? And actually, it was just the fact they took our course and they structured and they had the things they needed to do to be able to study. Before, they kind of gave us a review and they said, look, before, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to study. I didn't know how to study. They took our course and then got this massive increase in their score. So that was huge and that was great for them. The other thing we want to encourage people to do is do not answer choices blank. Don't leave it blank, because if you leave your answer choices blank, that is when you are going to just lose a point. No penalty for guessing. Okay. So if you don't know an answer, give it your best guess. Just kind of go FSBPT. All right, you got me on this one. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to put a guess, and you have got a 25% chance of getting it wrong, of getting it right. And if you are able to kind of read the question and break it down some and actually eliminate some answers, you might have a 50-50 chance of getting that question right. So always take a guess, even if you don't know the answer. All right. So again, here is the breakdown. This is how you should study. So what I'm saying is you should be spending the majority of your study time studying cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, and neuro, followed up by non-systems. You are then going to cover a lot of this stuff then in the additional areas. But if you got perfect scores on cardio, musculoskeletal, neuro, non-systems, you will pass this test easily. Okay. So that's a really, really, really good way of approaching this test. All right. So there's a few myths about the MPTE that we see. And I want to kind of bust a few of these myths because they can provide quite a bit of anxiety to you if you've just got things that you went into the test going, actually, I don't know about this. And I've heard that the exam in July is tougher and the exam in January is easier. Now, unfortunately not for all you guys sitting in January. The exam is not easier in January than it is in July. So that is a myth. A score of 800 out of 800 means you have answered every question correctly. Not necessarily. So they will have a score, they will have your scale, and score an 800 out of 800 and still get a couple of questions wrong. But that is just a myth on the exam. There are multiple correct answers to each question. Now that is a myth because there is the way the questions are written. There is a stem at the end of the question, and what the question asks you, it's going to ask you some keywords, and it will say things like, what is the first thing you are going to do, or what is the best option, or what is the least appropriate thing to do. Now, the answer choices might be available to do, but based on the stem, it wouldn't be something that you would do first, or it wouldn't be the most, or it wouldn't be the least. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking at for when you're looking at your answer choices. Okay. So the keywords are really important. So the FSBPT is out of touch with the reality. So that's a myth, because your question writers are real PTs. So your question writers are written by PTs, they're written by faculty, excuse me, they're written by people who work in clinics, are written by a group of people who do what we do. So that is also a myth. The test is purely academic. So it's an academic test in the sense you're sitting in front of a computer, but every single question on the test is going to be related to a clinical scenario. So you could look at any question on this test and you could relate it to a patient that you may have seen before or you may see in the future. So it's clinical in nature, in the sense you've got to treat it like a patient, but it's academic in the sense that you are sat at a computer and it's a written test. And then the test is graded based on your educational background. So no, it's not. So it's based on your knowledge, it's based on the test, and it's based on what you do and what you score on the day. Okay, so one of the things we kind of look at for how you study, what you do, what's your strategy. Okay, so one of the things people do is they tend to lock themselves in a cave, and you tend to just a cave, basement, whatever you've got, bedroom, you just lock yourself up for the months building up to the exam, study, 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 and then you kind of just like burn out. And that's what people do. So what we want to try and get people to do is, when you are studying, when you are doing your study, you want to do distributed practice. So that is distributing the practice with increase in time between review periods. So review something maybe musculoskeletal on a Monday, and then maybe come back to that on a Thursday or a Friday to review it again, just to see if you're retaining the stuff you did before. The other thing you could do is random practice. So work on a variety of topics. Try and improve your retention. So look at cardio and neuro in the same day. See if you can jump between a few different topics to kind of make sure you know that information. The other thing then is your practice testing. So practice tests are huge. So you want to take practice tests. You want to make sure you've done that, because it's not only going to make you highlight your knowledge, your weaknesses, but it's also going to help you practice getting to sit this exam. So can you sit for 5 hours or 4 hours? Can you sit for 4 hours to sit this exam? Can you sit for that long? Can you keep your score as high in section 1 as you can in 3 and 4? So you want to practice these things, and you want to make sure that you're doing that well. You want to do high density and high yield studying. And what we mean by that is you want to do really, really detailed, dense information. So you want to study something very, very specific that you're going to get a lot out of. You don't want to be kind of flicking through something, looking on YouTube, kind of, I'm going to look at my special tests on YouTube, or, do you know what? I'm going to listen to some lung volume sounds on this. And then all of a sudden you get distracted by cat videos, or you get distracted by TikTok, or you get distracted by all of those things that we all get distracted by. You want to make sure you've got a really good plan. This is what I'm studying at this time. This is what I'm focusing on as you kind of progress through. Okay. So study with a goal. Have a topic that you want to master that day. If your topic to master that day is going to be spinal mobs, that is what you need to master that day. So you need to break it down. You need to make sure you know what you're going to study, when you're going to study it, and you want to do the most you can to make that area really, really strong for you. So balance. You've just got to balance what you're doing. So you've got to make sure that you're studying well, but you've also got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So what I mean by that is, don't ditch out on exercise. If you're a big exercise person, make sure you're eating well. Make sure you're doing all the things you need to do for self-care. Make sure you're getting some time for yourself. If you like to kind of get out and do some things, one of the tips that I give people is read something, dictate it while you're reading. So read it out loud into your phone, then plug your headphones into your phone, head out, go for a walk, go for a run, and listen to everything you've just read. If you can listen to everything you've just read, you have double intaked what you have just studied. So there are so many strategies and so many ways that you can help with your retention. All right, so make a plan. Map out your available time. So what you want to do is plan chunks of time to cover material in each available time slot. So looking at the content outline, These are the areas I want to be making sure I spend the most time in. This is something I'm really struggling with. Every time I've taken a practice test, I've got questions wrong about um, cardiac rehab. Let's say that. So every time I do a question on cardiac rehab, I get it wrong. Okay, I'm going to plug cardiac rehab into a chunk of time. That is what I'm going to study. That is what I'm going to try and master in that study time. So spend the most time on the areas that are weakest for you, and don't spend as much time on things that are strong. You don't want to be taking practice tests and scoring 95% in musculoskeletal and 30% in cardio. You want to be trying to balance that out. If you're in a 90 percentile in an area, you're good. That area. Let's skip it. Let's jump to the stuff that you need to spend a little bit more time on. So study with a goal to master content rather than just reviewing. All right. So question strategy. So what we've done is I've got a few questions here that I'm going to actually get you to try. Okay. So when we're going through a question, I want you to read the question, read the stem. So what is the stem asking you? So the stem is going to be the line, very last line of the question. It's going to say something like, what is the thing you should do first? What is the best thing to do for range of motion? And then you're going to look at your answer choices. Once you've looked at your answer choices, jump back up and read the question again, read the answer choice, eliminate a few, then pick your guess. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't jumping too quickly. What you've got on this test is you've got about 72 seconds per question if you break it down by question. So you've got about 72 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll for you guys. So I'm going to launch this poll. All right. Can everyone see that poll? Give me high fives or give me things. All right. And then I'm going to move on to the next question. And I'm going to get everyone to read this question and give me an answer on the poll. Okay. So, and then I'll share the results at the end. It's anonymous. You're not going to see who got what one right. You're just going to see the percentage of the class of what people got. So from here, 72 seconds to answer this question. Okay, that's about 60 seconds. So get your answers in. Even if you're not sure, throw an answer in. Not in the chat box. Do it on the poll. Okay, let's end that. Okay. If you don't see the poll, are you on a phone, potentially? All right, so I'm going to share these results. Okay, can everyone see the shared results? Give me some high fives. Good. Raised hands, high fives, whatever they're called. Okay, so this is our poll. All right, and you've got that in that section. So you've got the majority of you got that one right. So the number 2 was the answer for that one. Okay, so when we're going through this, let me get rid of this poll a second, and I'll break this question down slightly for you. So let me draw. Okay. So when we're going through this, you've got a patient that sustained a mid-shaft humeral fracture. Okay, so that is a key word in the question. So you got mid-shaft humeral fracture 8 weeks ago, receiving physical therapy for upper extremity strengthening as a result of nerve damage due to the fracture. Okay, which of the following muscles is least likely to have impairments? Okay, so this is a negative question. So it's a negative question, which is least likely. So what is going to be there? So as we're going through, you're going through and you're saying, okay, so if it's a mid shaft humeral fracture, radial nerve is probably going to be most affected in that stuff. So because it's a negative question, this one, and this one are all innervated by the radial nerve. So the least likely for this one is going to be 2. Okay, so flexor pollicis is longest because mid shaft is likely to do radial nerve, wraps around the humerus. The flexor pollicis longus is innervated by the anterior interosseous nerve. So that's a branch of the median. Okay. So this is what you're kind of seeing with the stems of the question, trying to break that question down into saying, these are my key words. So humeral fracture, that's my key word. Nerve damage, fracture. So I'm automatically thinking when I'm reading that question, okay, so what is going to be an issue? What is innervated, or what nerve could be damaged around the humerus? And that's what you're going through, and as you're breaking that down. So I've got a question. Ooh, let me erase that because I need to grab my cursor again, and it will drive me nuts if there's pen on the screen. Okay, and it will probably drive a few of you guys nuts too. I've left some. There we go. All right. So you've got this. Will words like least or most be bolded on the exam? Yeah. So as I have got this question written, that's how it's going to be written. Okay. So it'll be least, most, best. They are what's going to be highlighted on the exam. Okay. All right. Will we have access to this recorded Zoom lecture to look back? Yes, I will give you access to this recorded Zoom lecture. I will do a Google Drive document, and within the Google Drive, I will put the recording, and I will put the PowerPoint as well for you guys to access. Okay. All right. So let's jump to here. All right. Let's do another question. So let me jump up to here. Poll. I moved it onto my other screen. I need to bring it back. Okay. All right. So I'll stop sharing this one. All right. So there's a new poll. Can everyone see that poll? Good. All right. So there's another question for you. Okay. So you should be able to see the poll if you're on a computer. It should pop up on your screen for you. Maybe you need to go to a different view. You should have it there. If you don't have the poll, just think about your answer and just kind of keep a check of it. All right, that's 60 seconds. All right, get your answers in. All right, so and that, I'll share that. All right, so there's the shared poll here. Okay. Good. All right, so again, good. We had more people got it right than got it wrong. So that's good. So what we've got, so you've got a patient that suffered a traumatic blow to the posterior knee, begins to exhibit signs of tibial nerve dysfunction. Which of the following impairments will most likely be present with a tibial nerve injury at the level of the popliteal fossa? So again, it's a most, okay? So it's a most one. So this one's highlighted most. Which is the most likely? So you're thinking, okay, what is innervated by tibial nerve? What is going to be here on that? So for this one, correct answer was number 4. So trauma to the tibial nerve would weaken the plantar flexors and alter sensation to the plantar surface of the heel. So that is going to be, it's important to know your basics. So when you're going through this, this test, these are the questions where we really highlight you knowing your anatomy, knowing nerves, knowing your muscles, making sure you know these things for breaking these questions down a little bit easier to answer them well. Okay. All right, let's do one more question. Are you all right with one more question? Okay. Okay, that's 60 seconds. Okay, good. All right, let's share the results. We have a tie, ladies and gentlemen. We have a tie, and I'm glad it's a tie between those two. Okay, so I'm glad it's a tie between those two because this is one of the things you'll see on the test that if you see opposites, if you see polar opposites, then it's likely one of those. But this is a mean question because I've got a few opposites. Okay, I've got medial glides and lateral glides, and I've got plantar glides and dorsal glides. Now, for this one, okay, gliding would be in a dorsal direction. Okay, so this is the correct answer because gliding the proximal phalanx dorsally will improve the first metacarpal joint or metatarsal phalangeal joint. So a concave surface glides in the directions of the roll. So this is where we're looking back to, again, basics from anatomy, where you're looking at roll and glide, you're looking concave, convex, what is happening at what point, and how are you going to be improving range of motion in those things. So trying to jump back to those things. And this is always one of those things that people do. And I'll get a few of you just give me your hands raised here. How many people have done a practice test or done tests in the past, multiple choice, where you've narrowed it down to two and picked the wrong one? I did that all the time. Okay. So I would narrow it down and then I'd pick the wrong one. And that's really frustrating, but it's also encouraging because you are in a position where you actually do know this material. You know that it's one of those. Okay. I know it's one of these. I've just got to kind of break it down a little bit more. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to help with the keywords, with the breakdown of the question to help you with those answer choices. Now, that is how you kind of go through those questions, and that is how you that's how the questions look on this test. Okay, so let me just get rid of this poll. So I wanted to briefly talk about the crash course. So our PTA crash course is going to be going live Monday. So we will be starting Monday for the PTA crash course. And if you've signed up for it already, thank you. I really appreciate you signing up. You will be kind of getting some sessions with myself and with Will Crane, who's our founder. We will be going through a really intense course over these big three systems. So like we've talked about previous in the session, we've talked about the big three systems are what are going to get you the biggest increase in score for this exam. So what we did is we've developed a course that goes through these big three systems. So each week there's going to be 3 weeks on this on the thing, and you're going to break it down in the sense of 3 weeks. So we'll start with musculoskeletal, then we'll jump onto cardio, then we'll jump onto neuro. Each week is going to have 4 live lectures. So we will have 4 live lectures that you will go over. And in the first lecture, it will be about your data collection. So based on your exams, so data collection. The second lecture in the week will be about diseases and conditions that affect treatment. Then you'll have a session about interventions. And then every Saturday morning, we'll meet you on Saturday morning, and we will do a session based on practice questions. So we will do a full hour of practice questions like we just did. So those 3, and we will relate those practice questions to the week. So skeletal week, all the questions will be on that setting. So all of the sessions are going to be on Monday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, and Saturday morning. Every single session that we do live will be recorded, and we will give you access to the recording and to the PowerPoint. So you can go back. If you can't attend the session at the right time, you won't miss it, because you can go and review it after that. Okay. So another question here: will we be having assignments after each lecture? No, we won't be giving you. Assignments. The live course is the live course, so you should be doing your own studying in between. You should be still doing what you're doing, but we have our course live where you can actually review those things. Another question there: what time do you have lectures start on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday? So they start at 8:30 Eastern time. So it's going to be 8:30 Eastern time on the week evenings. So the same time as we started tonight. And then the Saturday morning session will be at 9 a.m. Eastern time. But like I said, everything will be recorded so you can view them. Each session lasts anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes based on questions. So depending how many people we have in the class, if we have 500 people in the class, then it might last a little bit longer, because there's always questions that we try and review. And that's the beauty of having live, is that as we go through topics and concepts, if you're unsure about it, you can say, hey, Mark, can you review this one more time? Can you look at this? Can we talk about this? I'm not sure about this topic. This is something that's really causing me problems. We can go into that, and we can do that in real time, which is really, really helpful. How long are recordings uploaded? The recordings, we try and get them up the next day. So we get them up as soon as we possibly can. So it's just a case often of how quick we can get them down from Zoom and how quick we can get them up onto the website, but they're always up within 24 hours. Okay, so we had a couple of questions there. How many hours a day? So it's going to be, do you mean how many hours a day is in the lectures, or how many hours a day is the should you be studying? I guess that's a couple different questions. How much is the payment? Payment. So our course is $199 for the crash course, and that's for the 3 weeks. But because you guys attended the webinar tonight, I do have an option for you where I will give you a 50% discount on the course. So I'll get you access to the course for $99. The other thing you can do is if you are in a cohort and you're kind of listening to this and you're like, do you know what? I think that everyone in my cohort would benefit from this course, and I want to share that with everyone in my cohort. Then let me know. And what we'll do is, here is the stuff. So if you want access for your cohort, send me an email, and what I will do is I will set you up a specific cohort code for your school. And you guys can then share it with your cohort and say, hey, I went to a webinar with Mark this week. There is a discount on this crash course. It's going to be a 3-week class. It lasts and it's going to be $99 per person. So that is going to be an option for you guys. So I can say cohort code that you can have access to. Now, the other thing that you will get tomorrow, you will get an email from me tomorrow with just kind of a follow-up thank you to say thank you for attending the webinar. And within that email, there will be a sign-up link for you to have a $99 access to this course. So you just click on that link, go through, and it will give you an option to do that for $99. The other way you can do it is if you go to the PT Final Exam website and you go to the PTA Crash Course page, then you can put in at checkout, you can write the code webinar, and you can then get access to the course for $99. So just put in the coupon code webinar, and you will get that for $99. Another question here. My exam registration is still saying that it's awaiting approval to test letter, and it's been several weeks now, and it hasn't changed. Any ideas? Have you? You probably want to call your state licensing authority and just kind of see where they're at with your approval to test letter, because you definitely need your approval to test before you can go and even book your test. So you want to try and do that. If you already paid, if there's a question there, if you already paid Monday, you will send a Zoom link. What do you mean? You're already in the course? We will send for you? Is that what you're asking? So yeah, if you've paid for it, what we've got is on the website. Okay, so on the website, if you've signed in and have you signed in and had a look at the main page yet? So if you look on the main page, there is a breakdown where it's going to have all of the lectures we post. So we do them, we'll review them, we'll post them all for you to see. On that front page, there is going to be hang on, let me just share my screen. I'll show you. Let me find it here. All right, let me close this down a second. All right, let me jump to get all my windows open. Okay, and we will go. All right, that's not going to work. No, that one's not going to work. So let's stop the share here. All right. So let me get back onto my PowerPoint here. All right. That doesn't want to go back onto the PowerPoint. So never mind. We won't go back onto the PowerPoint because it won't let me go back onto the PowerPoint. So as far as the on that web page, you're going to have a list, and there is a calendar or a schedule for each week. And what I did, I've already put it in today. So I went through it today, and I've actually put in the Zoom link for each session. So each week, each day of the week, there is going to be a different Zoom link. So you can go onto there and you can click to get access through that link. Okay. Is there any more questions from people? Is it okay to take PT exams for review? Absolutely. Yeah, you can take PT exams. So the difference between the PT exam and the PTA exam is going to be the PT exams have got a little bit more examination, a little bit more differential diagnosis in there, where they might have a bunch more special tests and things that you might not necessarily need for your test. But if you are doing well on the PT exam, you're going to absolutely breeze the PTA exam. Okay, so it's really good because the question structure is the same. So the question structure is the same. You've got the STEM, you've got the breakdown, you've got the scenario, you've got the questions. So the structure of the exam is the same. So it's going to be just there for as a really, really good review. It's good for stamina building. It's good for all of those things you need. Question: how many people in our cohort need to be interested to get the discount? One. I only if you have a cohort and you want a cohort code, I will give you a cohort code. The thing you've got is once you've got that cohort code and you kind of tell a few people about it, all of a sudden people want it. So if you want a cohort code and you want to share it with everyone, you can have a cohort code, even if it's just yourself that wants to be in it. And the best way to get a cohort code is to email me, Mark at PT Final Exam. And that is going to be your best option for getting a cohort code. Okay. There we go. I've got my thing back up. All right. So we've got that there, and you can see my email, Mark at PT Final Exam. Which practice PTA exams do you recommend to take? Score Builders, PETES, FSBPT. So the PETE is going to be the best one to take because the PETE is a retired exam. So if you've got a retired exam that you can take, then that's going to be really, really good for you, because if you've got a retired exam, then you know that's an exam that has been used before. You know that that is an exam that is going to be very, very close to the actual exam, because it's written by the people who wrote the actual exam. Score builders are really good as well. Score builders got a good exam. The PTs are there. PT final exam have three PT exams right now. We're working on our PTA exams, but I don't know if they will be ready before you guys sit, if you're sitting in January. So if you want access to our PT exams, let me know, and we can kind of let you know the price on those. You're taking 2 academic PETs and 2 student PETs. Is that good prep? Yeah, that's great. What you want to do is just kind of your scores, make sure you're kind of getting up around that 65, 70% score, because that is going to give you a good indication that you are on the right track for kind of 103 to 105 score. Okay. Which PET we already did that one. All right. Any more questions? Since I'm here, you might as well ask me questions, since we're kind of here hanging out. Okay. No more questions. Good. So like I said, you will, oh, there's one more. I'm emailing the best. Is emailing the best form of communication? You live in Hawaii and have a huge time difference. Yeah. Email is probably best. Mark at PT Final Exam. If you've got any questions, you can email me for sure. Okay. All right. How long will it stay uploaded, your PowerPoint and this recording? So I'll give you guys all access to a Google Drive document, and that will just stay up there, so you can access that and keep looking at it as much as you need to. Okay. Another question: did you attend a bridge program to go from PTA to PT? Myself, I did. I was a PTA in the UK, in England. And then I actually went back to school. I went back to full. I didn't do a bridge program. I went and did. I just back to a regular PT program. There wasn't bridge programs when I was doing it. I'm saying like I'm really old. I'm not like really old. I graduated PT school in 2012 and PTA in 2006. All right. Any more questions? So like I say, you'll have an email from me tomorrow with a link to a discount code for the crash course. And if you are wanting to get your cohort involved, then let me know and we will give you a cohort code for your school. Here we go again. Will you be holding a crash course for the July test? Yes, we are going to be holding crash courses for every single round of this exam. So if you are not sitting until April or July or October, just reach out to me, Mark at PT Final Exam, and ask me for a code. Okay, I'll write you a code for your school. You can share it out with everyone, and we'll be getting you guys access into the crash course then as well. Okay. Access is good. So once you, how long is access long for? So your access, once you've got access to the course and you've got access to the recordings, you have access to the recordings until you pass. Okay, so you have got access to that recording. You can see it as much as you need to until you pass the exam. So you might have a moment where you try and log on and it says your access has been denied or not granted. We might have removed. All you need to do at that point is email us and say, hey, I'm still working on some of this information. Can you give me access again? And we can reopen that for you. Good. I'm glad it was helpful. If you've got any questions, further questions on the crash course, please email me. Let me know. The coupon codes that I'm sending out will expire on Sunday evening. So if you are going to sign up, you need to sign up before Sunday evening because we start on Monday. So you want to make sure you get signed up and share it out amongst all your friends and all your peers and colleagues, and just let them know what we're doing. Let them know how we're doing it, because some of the practice questions that went through, that's going to be very similar to our Saturday sessions. And then all of the week is going to be very much review on content that is going to be very crucial to this exam. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with me tonight. And I hope you all have a great evening. You sleep well. And I really hope to see you all, you guys, in the course on Monday. All right, guys. Thank you so much and good night.